The reckoning begins. The Vex Imperium battlecruisers emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, their obsidian hulls absorbing all light rather than reflecting it. 43 warships arranged in the ceremonial Spear of Dominance pattern that had heralded the end for 17 other civilizations across the galaxy. This was not a diplomatic mission. This was extinction. Admiral Zext Talon stood on the command deck of the flagship Inevitable Conquest, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence, a sign of anticipation among his kind. The holographic display showed the unsuspecting human colony of New Eden, population 8 million, established on the 4th planet of the Ta-Ceti system. A beautiful world of rolling plains and shallow seas the humans had transformed into a thriving outpost of their civilization. Sir, preliminary scans confirmed the humans possessed no energy shields, no quantum weaponry, and only rudimentary propulsion technology, reported his second-in-command. Their most advanced vessels use primitive fusion drives. No threat to our fleet. Admiral Zex Talon chittered softly, a sound that among his species signified amusement. Begin the demonstration. Target all major population centers simultaneously. Standard protocol. No survivors. On New Eden, it was Harvest Festival Day. Children flew colorful kites in the warm afternoon breeze, while adults gathered in community squares throughout the colony. Dr. Eliana Chen was explaining the irrigation system to a group of university students when the sky turned to fire. The first antimatter missiles struck the capital city, vaporizing 300,000 people in an instant. The shockwave flattened buildings for 20 kilometers in every direction. Before anyone could comprehend what was happening, the next salvo hit the secondary settlements. In orbit above Earth, the Emergency Defense Council received the automated distress signal 13 minutes after the attack began. It contained only sensor data. There was no one left alive to speak. "My God," whispered UN Secretary General Alvarez, her face ashen as the casualty estimates appeared on screen. 8 million people. Gone. General Marcus Santos remained stone-faced, though his hands tightened around the edges of the conference table. "Madam Secretary, I need to speak with you privately. Now." In the secured chamber beneath the council room, General Santos placed his palm on a hidden scanner. A section of wall slid open, revealing an elevator. "What is this?" demanded Alvarez. "I have clearance for all military installations." "Not this one," Santos replied grimly. "The Lazarus Directive has been compartmentalized beyond standard security protocols." The elevator descended for nearly 2 minutes before opening to reveal a vast underground complex humming with activity. Personnel in unfamiliar uniforms moved with purpose between workstations displaying technologies Alvarez had never seen. "Welcome to Tartarus Base," Santos said, leading her toward a central command hub, established 70 years ago after the Roswell incident. Roswell was just a weather balloon, Alvarez said automatically, the words sounding hollow even to her own ears. Santos gave her a pitying look. "We recovered a scout ship, and with it, knowledge. Knowledge that told us we weren't alone in the universe, and that when we finally met our neighbors, they wouldn't be friendly." A woman in a lab coat approached, her eyes sharp and focused. "General, the Vex fleet has begun broadcasting on all frequencies. They're demanding Earth's immediate surrender. Dr. Keller, meet Secretary General Alvarez. She needs to understand what we're facing and what we've prepared." Dr. Keller nodded and led them to a holographic display showing the alien fleet. The Vex Imperium. They've conquered 17 civilizations across this arm of the galaxy. Their standard protocol is to destroy a secondary colony, then demand the surrender of the homeworld while the population is still reeling from shock. "And we've known about them for 70 years, Alvarez asked, her voice rising with anger. "Why wasn't I told?" "Because politicians talk," Santos said bluntly, "and we couldn't risk the Vex learning that we were aware of them. So we created a facade, a technological Potemkin village. The space program the public sees, the International Space Station, the Mars missions, all deliberately designed to look primitive. That's not possible, Alvarez protested. You couldn't hide an operation of this scale. Santos gestured to the massive chamber around them. And yet we did. Black budgets within black budgets. Personnel officially listed as working on classified aircraft projects. Materials diverted through shell companies. We built a parallel space program in absolute secrecy. Dr. Keller brought up another display showing strange, angular vessels unlike anything in Earth's public space fleet. The Nemesis Protocol. 117 warships constructed in hidden facilities on the far side of the moon, in the asteroid belt, and in underground shipyards, equipped with technologies reverse-engineered from the Roswell craft and improved upon by our scientists. You're telling me we have a secret space fleet? Alvarez said, struggling to process the revelation. Not just a fleet, Santos corrected. A response force specifically designed to counter the Vex Imperium. We've been preparing for this day for 3 generations. The Vex are broadcasting a 72-hour deadline for our surrender, Dr. Keller reported. Standard procedure for them. And what's our standard procedure? Alvarez asked, her shock giving way to cold clarity. General Santos smiled grimly. They'd just murdered 8 million people to demonstrate their power. Now we demonstrate ours. On the Vex command ship, Admiral Zex Talon was growing concerned. The humans were not responding according to established patterns. There were no frantic pleas for mercy, no offers of resources or servitude. Instead, all communications from Earth had simply ceased. Orbital monitoring showed no mass panic, no military mobilization, just an eerie calm. Most unusual, noted his synapsychology officer. Previous species exhibited predictable responses to demonstration strikes, flight, submission, or futile resistance. These humans are showing none of those patterns. They're primitives, Zex Talon dismissed. Perhaps they don't even understand what's happening. Perhaps, the officer agreed, though doubt lingered in his voice. Yet I find it curious that all their satellites have maintained perfectly stable orbits. Not a single course adjustment since our arrival. It's as if they simply powered down. Maintain bombardment readiness, Zex Talon ordered. When their deadline expires, we'll target their largest city. That should prompt the appropriate response. But when the deadline reached 0, something unexpected happened. Every screen on the Vex command ship activated simultaneously. A single human face appeared. A young woman with striking features and calm, determined eyes. I am Commander Sarah Chen of Earth Defense Force Nemesis Division, she said, her voice steady. Sister of Dr. Ileana Chen, who died with her students on New Eden during your unprovoked attack. Zex Talon leaned forward, puzzled by the unfamiliar military designation. Earth had no defense force according to their intelligence. You believe your demonstration would make us surrender, Commander Chen continued. This reveals how little you understand humanity. The camera pulled back, revealing she stood on the bridge of a ship, a vessel with design elements Zex Talon had never seen before. We have monitored your advance across the galaxy for decades, she stated. We have studied your tactics, your technology, and your weaknesses. You have 48 hours to surrender Admiral Zex Talon and all who carried out his orders. This is not a negotiation. The transmission cut off. Seconds later, alarms blared across the Vex command ship. Unidentified vessels detected, shouted the sensor officer, panic evident in his voice. Multiple signatures appearing from behind Earth's moon. Impossible, Zex Talon hissed. Their technology is primitive. They have no interplanetary combat capabilities. The tactical display told a different story. 117 warships were emerging from concealed positions throughout the solar system, their designs unlike anything in the Vex database. They moved with impossible speed, deploying in a formation that precisely mirrored the Vex's own sphere of dominance. Sir, the weapons officer reported, voice trembling, they're targeting our antimatter containment systems. For the first time in his long career, Admiral Zex Talon felt fear. In the command center of the EDF flagship Reckoning, Commander Sarah Chen watched the Vex fleet with cold determination. Around her, the bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency, targeting solutions appearing on their displays. "All vessels report ready, Commander," her executive officer announced. Quantum disruptors locked on target. Chen touched the small pendant around her neck, a glass vial containing soil from New Eden. "For 8 million souls," she whispered. Then, louder, "Execute Nemesis Protocol. Fire." Across the human fleet, quantum disruptors activated simultaneously. These weapons didn't destroy the Vex ships directly. They simply collapsed the containment fields around the antimatter power cores. The resulting chain reaction transformed 38 Vex warships into miniature suns, their destruction witnessed by billions on Earth through hastily repositioned telescopes. 5 Vex vessels managed to jump to hyperspace, fleeing the unexpected devastation. Chen made no move to pursue them. "Let them run," she ordered. "Let them tell the others what happened here." She turned to her communications officer. "Broadcast to all Earth channels. The threat has been neutralized. Operation Lazarus is now entering Phase 2. General Santos stood beside Secretary General Alvarez as they watched the Vex ships being destroyed. "This isn't over," Santos warned. "The Vex Imperium spans hundreds of worlds. We've won the first battle, but the war is just beginning." Alvarez nodded slowly, still processing everything she'd learned in the past few hours. "Then we'd better prepare humanity for what's coming. That's why we let those ships escape," Santos explained. "Now we have 48 hours before their reinforcements arrive. Time enough to bring the world's leaders into the fold and prepare for full mobilization." "You've been planning this for decades," Alvarez realized. "The contingency protocols, the evacuation shelters, the deep underground facilities, they weren't built for nuclear war." "No," Santos confirmed. "They were built for this war. The one we always knew was coming." Across Earth, humanity was about to learn that they were not alone in the universe, and that their secret guardians had just fired the first shot in a conflict that would determine their very survival. Extinction's edge. The Vex Imperium's response came not in 48 hours, but in 12. A fleet 3 times larger than the first emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. 130 warships, led by Grand Admiral Xor Thol himself, Supreme Commander of the Imperium's forces and conqueror of a dozen worlds. In the Tartarus base war room, Commander Chen studied the tactical display with General Santos and the newly formed Earth Defense Council. Representatives from every major nation watched in silence as the massive Vex armada approached. "They're moving cautiously," Chen observed, "maintaining maximum sensor range. They've learned from Zex Talon's mistake." "Can we defeat a force this size?" asked the Chinese premier, her expression grave. "Not in direct combat," Santos admitted. "Even with our technological advantages, their numbers would overwhelm us." "Then what's our strategy?" demanded the Russian president. Dr. Keller stepped forward. "Project Prometheus," she said, activating a holographic display showing a strange, spherical device. "While we've been building ships, we've also been studying the Vex neural network, their collective consciousness system. The Vex aren't just physically connected through their technology," she explained. "They're mentally linked. It's what gives them their tactical advantage. Perfect coordination across their entire fleet. But it's also their weakness." Secretary General Alvarez leaned forward. "What exactly does Prometheus do?" "It severs their connection," Keller replied. "Creates a cascading neural disruption that isolates each Vex from the collective consciousness. They become individuals, something their psychology isn't equipped to handle." "You're talking about a weapon that targets their minds," Alvarez said slowly. "Is that not a war crime by our own standards?" Commander Chen's expression hardened. "They obliterated 8 million innocents without warning. Was that not a war crime by any standard?" Before Alvarez could respond, a communication officer interrupted. "Incoming transmission from the Vex fleet. Grand Admiral Thor is requesting to speak directly with Earth's leadership. The massive holographic display shifted to show the Grand Admiral. Unlike Zek's Talon, Thor was ancient, his exoskeleton scarred from battles fought across decades of conquest. "Humans of Earth," he began, his translator rendering his chittering speech into clear English. "Your resistance is impressive but futile. The demonstration at your colony was regrettable but necessary to establish the natural order. Submit now, and your species will be preserved as valued servants of the Imperium." Alvarez stepped forward. "Grand Admiral, humanity will not surrender. Your unprovoked attack on our colony has united our planet as nothing in our history ever has. We offer you one opportunity to withdraw and recognize Earth's sovereignty. Otherwise, we will defend ourselves by any means necessary." Thor's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Brave words from a species that until recently was confined to a single world. "Our intelligence indicates you have fewer than 200 vessels. I command thousands across the Imperium. This conflict can end only one way." The transmission ended. Alvarez turned to Chen and Santos. "How soon can Prometheus be deployed?" "The device is ready," Dr. Keller answered. "But we need to get it close to their flagship, the focal point of their neural network. It won't work at a distance." Commander Chen stepped forward. "I'll take it. My ship can get through their defenses." "It's a one-way mission," Santos warned. "Even with our stealth technology, they'll detect you once Prometheus activates." "I know," Chen replied simply. "My sister's remains are still on New Eden. I've made my peace." In a secret laboratory deep within Tartarus Base, Dr. James Rivera was making a discovery that would change the course of the war. As one of the few survivors from the Roswell research team, he had spent decades studying the biological samples recovered from the crash. Now, examining the brain tissue of the rescued human captives from Vex research vessels, he noticed something extraordinary. "Dr. Keller," he called urgently, "you need to see this." Keller hurried over to his workstation, where neural scans of the former captives were displayed alongside Vex brain patterns. "The frequency patterns," Rivera explained, pointing to matching waveforms. "The Vex neural network operates on the same frequency as human theta waves during deep creative thought. That's why they've been abducting humans for study. They detected this similarity but couldn't understand it." "Are you saying we naturally access the same mental frequency they use for their collective consciousness?" Keller asked, stunned by the implication. "Yes, but with a crucial difference," Rivera continued. "The Vex have evolved complete dependence on their network. They can't function without it. Humans generate these waves naturally, especially during creative problem-solving, but we remain individuals." Keller's eyes widened. "That's why they attacked us. They recognize something familiar in our brain patterns, something that threatens their entire conception of consciousness." "Exactly," Rivera nodded. "And it means Prometheus might do more than just disrupt their network. If properly calibrated to human theta frequencies, it could replace their network with ours." Keller finished, already running simulations, not to control them, but to show them another way of existing. Aboard her ship, the Vindication, Commander Chen prepared for the most important mission of her life. The Prometheus device, now modified according to Rivera's discovery, was secured in the vessel's core. "Final preparations complete," reported her executive officer. "Stealth systems at maximum efficiency. Will be invisible until we activate the device." Chen nodded, studying the approach vector that would take them through the heart of the Vex fleet to Exorfol's flagship. "Begin the countdown. And send one last message to Earth. For New Eden." The Vindication slipped away from the human fleet, its advanced cloaking technology bending light and other electromagnetic radiation around its hull. To Vex sensors, it simply didn't exist. On Earth, humanity held its collective breath. The Vex fleet had taken up position just beyond lunar orbit, their weapons trained on major population centers. The first salvos could begin at any moment. In the Tartarus Command Center, Dr. Keller monitored the Vindication's progress. "They're approaching the outer defensive screen," she reported. No sign of detection yet. Secretary General Alvarez stood beside General Santos, watching the tactical display. "If this fails," she said quietly, "what's our backup plan?" Santos' expression was grim. "There isn't one. We fight until the end." Aboard the Vex flagship, Grand Admiral Thor prepared to give the order that would begin Earth's subjugation. Unlike Zex Talon, he had chosen a more methodical approach: systematic destruction of military installations first, then major cities, leaving enough infrastructure intact to make the planet valuable. "All vessels report ready," Grand Admiral, his second-in-command, announced. "Targeting solutions locked." Thor raised his primary limb to give the command when an alarm sounded on the sensor station. "Anomaly detected," called the officer. "Unknown energy signature inside our defensive perimeter. It's right next to us." The Vindication decloaked less than a kilometer from the Vex flagship, its mission impossible to hide any longer. "Targeting their command deck," Chen ordered. "Prepare to activate Prometheus on my mark." Vex point defense systems opened fire, energy beams lashing out at the suddenly visible human vessel. The Vindication's shields flared under the assault, but held long enough for Chen to give her final order. Now, the Prometheus device activated, generating a quantum field that expanded outward at the speed of thought. It struck the Vex flagship first, then rippled through the entire fleet in seconds. On every Vex vessel, the neural connection that had united their species for millennia suddenly transformed. Grand Admiral Thor staggered as the familiar presence of the collective consciousness disappeared. But instead of isolation, he experienced something new. Images, emotions, and thoughts not his own flooded his mind. Human thoughts, human emotions, human dreams and fears and hopes. The same was happening across the Vex fleet. For the first time in their evolutionary history, they were experiencing existence as humans did, as individuals connected not by forced neural linkage, but by shared understanding and empathy. The Vindication did not survive. Chen and her crew had known it was a suicide mission. But their sacrifice achieved what weapons could not. On the Vex flagship, Thor struggled to process the new form of consciousness. "What have you done to us?" he managed to transmit to Earth. Dr. Rivera answered from the Tartarus command center. "We showed you another way to exist, not as a collective that erases individuality, but as individuals who choose to connect. This is how humanity has always been, separate but united, different but the same." Across the Vex fleet, weapons powered down. The immediate threat to Earth had passed, but the transformation had only begun. What would emerge from this unprecedented melding of consciousnesses remained to be seen. 3 months later, Secretary General Alvarez stood before the United Nations General Assembly. Representatives not only from Earth but from 17 formerly conquered species filled the hall. "The Vex Imperium has dissolved," she announced. "In its place, a new galactic confederation is forming, one based on mutual respect and self-determination rather than conquest. The Prometheus event, as it's now called, has fundamentally altered our understanding of consciousness itself." She paused, looking at the memorial flame burning at the center of the chamber, a tribute to the 8 million lost on New Eden, and to Commander Chen and her crew. "They crossed a line with humanity," Alvarez continued, "a line that ultimately led not to our destruction, but to their transformation. In trying to conquer us, they discovered a truth we've always known, that our greatest strength lies not in weapons or technology, but in our capacity to remain individuals while acting as one, in our ability to stand alone together." The war that had begun with a crime against humanity had ended not with extinction, but with evolution. The galaxy would never be the same.